Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria, and today we are going to be talking about some standalone romances. I didn't realize how difficult it was to find standalone romances, or how many books that I read that are technically in series, because most of the books that I read are technically standalones, but they're standalone series. So they're standalone books that are like interconnected and are like technically labeled as in a series. So they follow family members or friend groups. Like, that's my favorite thing to do. That's my favorite kind of reads. So when I went looking to film a standalone romance video, I realized how few I actually read. So I ended up coming up with a pretty good list of really good favorites of mine that are standalones, but it was actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So we are going to get right into this video, but like I said, all of the books in here are completely labeled as standalones on Goodreads. That's really how I differentiated all complete standalones, to my knowledge, or to Goodreads knowledge. So we're gonna get right in. The first one that I have is, I actually went around and like picked up the books. It's great. The first one that I have is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This is a dark romance. It is historical. It is about pirate. It is about a woman named Bennett, I believe is her name, and she is the daughter of this very feared pirate who has died in the past, and now she is a pirate captain, and she ends up in a situation where she has two love interests. She has another pirate who is named Priest, I believe, and then she also gets captured by a pirate hunter named Ashley, who ends up being one of her love interests also. So it is not a love triangle, but there are two prospective love interests, and it is incredibly dark, but it is absolutely fantastic. Pam Godwin's writing is just so deeply descriptive and incredible that you are fully and completely in this story. These very, very dark things are happening, but you're so enraptured in the story that you're just like, need to know what's happening next. You are fully, completely connected to these characters, and it is so good and so interesting, and it was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. So I went into this thinking, oh, pirate, historical, dark, I'll be good. It was so much more than I was expecting. The very intricate plot and storyline is so good, and it's just absolutely fabulous, and I need Pam Godwin to write more pirate historicals because wow. But it is absolutely incredible. This is the Mystic Box Special Edition, so this actually, the cover doesn't actually look like this, but this is the only copy that I actually own. So it's fantastic. I actually gave it 4.5 stars because there is a scene in here that I believe could have gone a different way. It is a non-consensual type of moment. So be aware of that. Please look up trigger warnings if you need trigger warnings, because this is a very dark romance, but it's incredible. Then the next one that I have is another one that I have a special edition copy of, and that is The Forbidden Man by Karina Halley. This is a much lighter book than Sea of Ruin. This is actually a sports romance. It is older woman, younger man. The heroine in this is a sports therapist, or like physical therapist, who works in sports medicine, and she gets a new job. She has to leave her previous job in England, working for, I believe, Man U, and she has to leave her job for relationship reasons, and she ends up getting a new job at Real Madrid with the soccer team Real Madrid. And so she moves, and she ends up meeting this guy named Alejo, who is one of the players on the Real Madrid team, and she and him develop this very forbidden, because they do work together, relationship that is so steamy and so incredible. Alejo worships the heroine so much. It is so amazing, and the heroine really, really needs it because, like I said, she had to leave her previous job for relationship issue reasons, where she's had problems with having a relationship with somebody at work, and she just feels run down and older, and Alejo is this younger, sexy, spry, very famous professional soccer player who is so completely into her, and it is fantastic. It is so freaking good, and it has that great like forbidden aspect, but it's in no way like dark. So if you want like a lighter side of forbidden, this is a great one to try. Next one that I have is one that I read recently that I absolutely loved and I'm completely can't stop thinking about, and that is The Words by A. Jade or Ashley Jade. This one is a rock star romance with second chance vibes. It is chunky but so freaking worth it. Actually, all of the books that I pulled out are super chunky. The Forbidden Man is like really chunky too. But this one is about it starts when the characters are in high school. The heroine's name is Lennon, and she is plus sized and constantly bullied in her school. And the hero is named Phoenix, and he is like, he's popular in like the bad boy way. He's not like I have a lot of friends popular, but he's like everyone knows who I am because I'm the bad boy kind of popular. And Lennon has this sort of crush on him, but knows that he would never go for her. But when Lennon's English teacher, asks her to tutor Phoenix, Lennon agrees, and they end up having to spend a lot of time together and forming this connection and bond, that sort of friendship, sort of more, but they're very like high school. So like I said, Lennon is a loser and Phoenix is popular, so it has that like high school element to it. And then they are sure that they are actually going to be in a relationship when Phoenix does something that Lennon is so completely betrayed by. And it's years later now. It's like, and Phoenix is a famous rock star, and Lennon's life has gone in a very different direction than she was expecting it to. And Phoenix's manager comes to Lennon, I keep saying Lennox, but Lennon's job, to hire her to be Phoenix's sober companion. Phoenix has had issues with drugs and alcohol, and his manager needs somebody to keep him on task, on track, and out of the public eye. He keeps getting in like PR messes. And Lennon doesn't want to, but ends up having to agree for financial reasons. And because she wants to get back at Phoenix for what he did to her, that she is still incredibly betrayed by. And so she goes on tour with Phoenix and his band and ends up trying to hurt him in a way that he hurt her. But they end up having the same bond and connection that they had in high school as teenagers come back, and they have all these feelings that are completely unresolved, and it has full second chance vibes, and it was really good. It's very angsty, but it's fantastic. I absolutely love it, and I would 100% recommend it. The next one is another really lighthearted one, and that is The Rivalry, wow, that was hard to say, by Nikki Sloan. This one is about a Ohio State cheerleader and a Michigan State? I'm thinking it's Michigan State. I think it's a Michigan team, whoever Ohio State's rival is. So the heroine lives and breathes Ohio State, and she ends up meeting this guy at a wedding, and she decides to meet up with him at a bar, and he chooses the bar, and she walks into the bar, and it ends up being a Michigan State bar, and she is appalled. She's like, I need to leave. I'm Ohio State through and through. But they have this big, they have feelings for each other, they have this connection, and they end up in this like sort of weirdly forbidden romance between Ohio State and Michigan, and it is so fun and interesting. It's a great sports romance. He is a football player, and they have to like work through their issues. It's mostly her issues, but she's been told her entire life, Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State, Michigan sucks, and he's from Michigan, and she's like, oh crap. But it's very lighthearted. It's really fun. It has a little bit of that forbidden vibe because she doesn't want to tell anyone that she's dating this Michigan State player, but it's really great and so fun. And it was the first Nikki Sloan that I ever read, and I was so surprised when I learned that all of her other books were like much more taboo, because I really loved this one and it was really fun. Another really lighthearted one is Top Secret by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. This is actually an MM romance, and it's new adult. It takes place in college, and it was the first MM romance that I ever read. And this one is about these two guys who are both in the same fraternity. One of them is a legacy in the fraternity. He's very rich. I cannot remember his name, of course. And he is running for frat president. And he shares a hallway with the guy right across the hall who is incredibly poor. He lives in the frat because it was the cheapest place to live. And he decides to run for frat president because he finds out that the frat president gets free housing. And so he is like, crap, I really could use free housing. And so they run against each other for frat president. They don't get along. They're very polar opposites. On the other side of it, the very rich one, whose name I really should look up, Keaton. Keaton is the really rich one, and he has this girlfriend, and he and his girlfriend have been in the like sort of a rut lately, and his girlfriend says for her birthday she wants to have a threesome with another dude. And Keaton gets real into this, and he's like, okay, I will go on this app, I will meet up, try and find a guy that we can have a threesome with for your birthday. So he wants to like schedule it for her. And he ends up chatting with this guy who goes by the screen name Sinner3. And they end up fully chatting for a very long time. And are very surprised when they find out that the guy that they hate from across the hall is the guy that they've been flirty, texting, sexting with online. And they develop a relationship. It's really fun. It's really cute. I really loved it. And obviously it was my first MM, and I love MM now, so it really got me into MM. Then the next one is actually the only one that I don't have a physical copy of, I don't think. Yes, and that is By a Thread by Lucy Score. This is another really chunky one, but this one is about a girl who is really down on her luck. She really has a lot of financial issues, and she is working at a pizza place when this very rude guy walks in with his mother, and he refuses to get off his cell phone, and he's talking really loudly, and she goes up to him and says, excuse me, we have a no cell phone policy in here, you can't talk on the phone. And he's like, you are horrible. And he is like, you can't tell me what to do. And he's just like a really rude ass customer. And so they end up getting into this like public spat, and she ends up getting fired from her job at this pizza place. But as she's leaving the pizza restaurant, the woman that was with this very rude customer comes up to her and says, hey, I really like your sass and your style. I own this really big fashion company. Come to my office tomorrow and I'm gonna give you a job. And she's like, can't say no. So she shows up and ends up becoming the personal assistant of the guy, the very rude customer that she had worked with. And he can't stand the fact that she says no to him, that she talks back to him, that she's not afraid to like talk shit about him to his face. He is so freaking frustrated that she doesn't just fall at his feet. And he can't understand like why it pisses him off so much. He like really gets under his skin, and he can't stop thinking about her. And it ends up being this really amazing romance between the two of them. It's a workplace. She's his assistant. It's so good. And they are very different people, but learn the things that they do have in common, and they form this really deep connection. My cat has entered the building. Honey. I'm sorry if the camera moves angles. She's rubbing up against the, come here. Say hi to Pepper, everyone. But they are end up working together and falling in love, and it was so good. It was so fun, and I loved the tension between the two of them so much. Then the next one that I have is another darker one, and that is Credence by Penelope Douglas. This one is about a woman named Tiernan, who's, I should say girl named Tiernan, she's actually 17, whose parents die, and she ends up having to go live with her only surviving family member, who happens to be her step-uncle and his 2 sons, who live in rural Colorado on a mountain in a town that when it snows there, you ain't going anywhere. So, oh no, my other cat just came into my room. So she ends up going to live with her step-uncle and her 2 step-cousins and getting snowed in with them for like multiple months at a time and having a sexual relationship with all 3 of them. And I'm not going to tell you who she ends up with because I think it's more fun to have to guess along the way. But I really liked this book. I have a whole vlog reading it. It was way back in the day when I first started my channel. I did a reading vlog of this book, but I ended up really liking it. It was one of the first really taboo books that I read, and I still really love it. Then we have the last one, and that is Waking Olivia by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This one is a coach athlete romance. It is about a girl named Olivia who has a very troubled past, and she is actually a cross country or track runner, and she had a D1 scholarship until she gets into a fight and loses her scholarship and has to move to a D3 school, and she ends up at this D3 school where her coach is this guy named Will, and he finds out that Olivia has this condition where she sleep runs. And so she's always exhausted when she gets to practice, and he decides to try and help her out, and they end up forming this, oh no, Roxy, don't do that. They end up forming this very good bond, and it develops into a relationship. It is forbidden because he is her coach. There is an age gap, but it is not a large age gap, but it is forbidden because he is her coach. But it is really good. I really loved it, and oh, Roxy, stop it. It is really good, and I really loved it. So I would 100% recommend it. That is the last one though. That is all of the standalones that I was going to recommend. I really hope you liked this video. Please let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these, how your thoughts are on them, if you have any recommendations of other standalones for me or anyone who wants to read in the comments. But that is going to be it for this video, so please like it if you liked it and subscribe so you can see more content from me, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.